Hello everyone, welcome to yet another Teach Kevin Your Thing session. This is Teach Kevin Your Thing session number 62. And today I have Lars, who is going to, we're going to geek out on ORMs. He's been working on one for like a number of years now. So before we get into what the ORM is, and let's meet Lars. How you doing, Lars?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for coming to TKYT. So I want us to start on the note on you introducing yourself. So you tell me or you tell us who you are, what you've been doing, and most importantly, a fun fact about you.
A fun fact.
Yes.
Okay. Well, at my daily work, I mostly do a front end actually, but as I started programming about 20 years ago, and was doing both backends and front end then, and mostly in C#. And I was working with logistics programming for
Mm-hmm.
transporters and customs declarations. So mostly it was C# then for about 10 years. And then afterwards we started with some Node programming. Yeah, and I'm living in Trondheim in Norway.
Nice. Awesome. So yeah, the fun fact.
The fun fact. I didn't prepare a fun fact, actually.
Yes, I know. It's
Yeah,
it's it's
well,
actually
there is
supposed to
one.
put you on the spot. Yeah. So yeah.
I
Come
think
up
I
with
think I
one.
have one because we had this service running at I'm not going to say which provider it was. It was one of the big ones, and it was
Okay.
geocoding, reverse geocoding,
Mhm.
and there was a try catch in the reverse geocoding, so it just started over again, and it ran for
Wow.
2 months, and we got a large bill about
Oh my
500,000
God.
Norwegian kroner.
That's a
But it
scary
was
fun
not in,
fact.
yeah, that was scary, but it wasn't in production, so
Okay.
we didn't have to pay it, and it was a crisis at that point.
Yes, wow. That's, with nowadays where we see a lot of, people online talking about bills that have been built on their providers, it's always scary to me. I don't want to run into any of those. Wow, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So you mentioned you are primarily almost focused on the front end, and that's really interesting. Based on what we're going to be talking about today, which is the TypeScript ORM you've been working on. So I think, do you mind, going back a little bit and just, what inspired? Because how long have you been working on RDB, which is now Orange?
Yeah, it was originally named RDB,
Mm-hmm.
and I started in 2014 because
Wow.
we were about to build a new product for the transporters that we already had as customers, and their customers again, they needed a booking solution. So
Okay.
we decided to go with Node and to go with Postgres, and then we tried out. I think we tried out SQLize because we needed an ORM. It was quite database intensive. So we tried out SQLize, but it had too many bugs, and the API was inconsistent. So and we already had some experience with creating an ORM in C#, so we knew about what the cost would be to create it. So
Mm-hmm.
so we started it and finished it, the first version, in a couple of months, and
Nice.
yeah, and it worked out well, and also added MySQL quite early on. So
Nice.
yeah,
So RDB is it's what 10 years in the making, and it's actually checked one of the boxes I like about software, which is it comes out of a need. It was extracted from like a problem you had, to build a web service for a customer. So um since you said you had a C# background, that means IODB, which is now Orange, as it was influenced by the C# ORM. I don't know what the name is.
And a C# ORM in
Okay.
the one we built was a private one, so it's not
Okay.
published anywhere.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so yeah. So what was like you said, SQLite had a lot of inconsistencies with the API. Did you try any other one before
I'm not
you
sure
like
if
know
we
what's gonna
tried,
work? Yeah.
maybe tried Bookshelf. I'm not sure actually. I can't
Mm-hmm.
recall.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
But
So
at that
what's
point,
yeah,
at that time, there were very few ORMs, so we
that's
didn't
fair.
have much to choose among.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. So first of all, I need you to tell me a little history of the name and the change and why the change. So what the full meaning of IODB and why is it changed to Orange ORM? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I really liked the short name RDB because it was so short and it was pretty self-explaining. But then I found a logo for it, and a friend of mine, which is a designer, he thought that the logo was badly designed, and he wanted to create a new one for me.
Okay.
So, but then again, we needed to find something to suit the logo. So he figured just out maybe an orange would be a suitable fit. So he made a logo that looked like an orange. So yeah,
Okay.
at first
Yeah.
I didn't want to change the name, but then okay, what the heck?
Okay. Wow.
And maybe it's easier to remember. It's less cryptic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think so too. Like it's a cool name and I like the new logo. It's nice. So since you
Yeah.
have like almost like a decade working on your own ORMs and definitely you've worked with others before, in your opinion, what makes a good ORM and what like which of those considerations did you because of course all software have trade-offs and gains. So which of those considerations on what make a good ORM based on practical use cases did you consider in making Orange?
Well, I think it's important that the API is pretty consistent and straightforward, and
Okay.
it should be easy to create quite complex filters, and it should be easy to do updates as well. So
Okay.
the consistency and I think it's very important, and of course the performance is important as well.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
and I
That's
tried, yeah,
yeah. You could go ahead.
yeah, I tried to expose as little of the interior as possible. So that makes it easier to change, because if you expose a lot of the interior, it's very hard to make changes. At least then you
Yeah.
have to have breaking changes.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and in
Mm,
the last 2 years, I added TypeScript on top of it. So the core is it's a bit different actually. That's yeah, that's
mm,
everything is written in JavaScript, but I added TypeScript definitions on top of it. So I had to create a small layer above the core. So the core is about the same as it was 10 years ago.
mm. Nice.
Yeah.
I like a stable, consistent, API, especially when you're providing this stuff to developers to use. No one wants APIs to change, every other day.
No.
and you mentioned something about updates. So, what sort of updates? Is it like newer versions of Orange, or is it database updates?
No, it's mostly newer updates of Orange. I
Okay.
have very few breaking changes, but I had a few of them. So,
No.
but mostly it's
Okay.
adding new functionality.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
yeah, one other thing that most people complain about ORMs, because I myself have been using, and I've been using ORMs Waterline. That's the one that comes with Sales, which is my web framework of choice. I've been using it for like forever and never had a need to like drop down to like write SQL in most of my apps. So, and one thing that people always complain about with ORMs is performance. Like sometimes I haven't had the need, but most people claims that sometimes you have to drop down, and when the ORM don't let you do that effectively, they don't like it. So how do you factor that? Making sure that people don't really need to drop down as much as often when it comes to performance, because fine tuning their queries and stuff. So how does that play in Orange?
well, you can create filters. You can
Okay.
create deeply nested filters that is
Hmm.
quite performant. And if you're still stuck with performance, you can actually add raw filters to it, but you can still use it against the ORM when fetching data. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. So I see you support, of course, Postgres, MS SQL, MySQL, Oracle. I don't know SAP ASE. I haven't used that one, but I think I know most of these one. So in terms of like, how do you support these different databases that are some of them similar? Some I see you don't support MongoDB. Maybe that's because it's a NoSQL database, I guess. But how do you support this in terms of your architecture? Because over here in Waterline, we do like an adapter architecture. So there's an interface where you can write adapters for these databases. So if I need to work with Postgres, I just need to install the Postgres adapter. So how does that look in Orange Land? And I see it also works in the browser. Maybe you want to talk about that because that's pretty impressive.
Yes. Well, actually, it's the SQL that is written is it's not very exotic. So it's 90% of the SQL is just the same syntax for all the databases.
Okay.
And then there are the small differences, especially on insert and fetching the last inserted IDs. It's a little bit of different syntax. So I have adapters
Okay.
for those
Okay.
cases,
Oh yeah, makes sense.
and I also separated the fetching from the updates. So when you create an insert, it uses a completely different build-up than a pure
Mm-hmm.
select, which is read-only.
Okay.
So in this way, I can optimize the reads. So for example, for MS SQL, I build a completely different query, and it's 80% is the same, but then I'm using the for JSON operator in
Okay.
MS SQL that converts the entire thing to a single JSON. So it's quite effective for that.
Nice.
And for the rest of them, I use the same build-up. So
Mm.
when I decide to optimize, I can extract one database and one implementation and create a specific one for the reads just to make it perform better. But I still
Mm.
think it performs pretty well. But it creates for the one-to-many relation, it will run one extra query for each one-to-many relation. Not for each row, but for each relation.
Mm. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think this sort of tech is more show than tell. So I have a couple of questions that I would ask. Then we just go up to like seeing how it works. I'm already looking at some code. It's looking nice. Um, so how do you deal with? Do you do classic migrations where you have like a migration file, with up and down, or like how is the migration story for Orange?
Well, it does not have migrations actually, because
Oh,
I think it's so painful to let the
right.
ORM create the migrations.
Okay.
But it's something that I'm considering, but it might come in the future. But right now, I don't have it, and I've always preferred handwritten migrations in my personal and my work projects. So I
Mhm.
just have a version table and create regular SQL, which creates the tables and just increments the version in the version table.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's.
still, I think I will create actually a Prisma schema so I can let Prisma do the migrations.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
yeah, because when I see the number of bugs related to migrations on Prisma and Drizzle, I get overwhelmed. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. So,
because
like,
it's not
yeah,
able
go ahead.
to express all the nuances of the SQL, and
Yeah.
if you want to do that, you almost have to port the entire SQL thing into your ORM anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard. So first I will focus on creating a very good ORM without migrations, and then later on maybe I will add migrations. So,
Mm.
but as I said, I will probably make you can generate a Prisma schema and then just run the migrations with Prisma.
Yeah, for sure.
And
So,
I think the developers at Prisma are quite respectful, and I had a good conversation with them, so I think it's cool. So
yeah, for sure. I've had someone from Prisma on the show. It was really fun. Because in our world in Node, I think the two okay, everyone, if they want to start out with an ORM, they first of all hear about Prisma, so they're like sort of like a leader in the space in terms of like a popular um ORM. So in sales, in the waterline, we don't have migration files, but we have migration strategies. So we have the drop, the alter, and the safe. So the alter is what you normally do in development because that's what lets sales or waterline does what we call auto migration. So you have like model files. So like you have like user.js, which should define the attributes and whatnot. So sales will use that to create the tables or the collection if it's like MongoDB. So that anytime the file change, so that model file is a single source of truth for development and test. But in production, sales like always switch to the safe strategy,
yeah,
which
I
is
see.
it doesn't run the migration. You get to handle that yourself. It's something that I've always been thinking about if we'd want to do for production, but so far people just like you said it's it's easier to like write it manually sometimes, especially when you only have to do that in production in sales and where you don't want sales to alter or drop any of your production table. So yeah, I think it sort of like makes sense. I've never understood why we need migration files. I see the need, especially when you want to like version or like you'd be like, okay, if I'm adding a new column, I write a new migration file just to update that. I think at point in sales where I be like, okay, in dev mode, I just need to change that column, and Git already
Yeah.
knows that I changed that column. So it's weird for me, but I don't know. The only downside is in prod because of course I don't want sales to run anything in prod because a lot of things could happen in prod. It could nuke all the nuke all the tables and I'm in trouble. But yeah, it's a interesting problem. Really, it's a fun one.
Yeah, and often
Yeah.
when writing migrations, it often involves data migrations as well,
Mm-hmm.
not only
Exactly.
infrastructure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, what I've done in the past, right? Even so, I have this new app I work on called Hackfish. It's like an invoicing system. So there's a lot of tables, a lot of associations and stuff. What I found that was a little bit easy for me because most people, if you're working as a full stack dev or a backend dev, you definitely should be conversant with your database CLI tool or your GUI. So I use Beekeeper Studio and I use Postgres as my primary database. So it lets me export my table, the local one, both the definitions and the data if you need them. Then I could import that because it under the hood is using PSQL, I think, and I think there's PG, I don't know what it's called. Is it PG backup and like something like that, which lets you, get a snapshot of a database, all the definitions, and then you could replay it in another Postgres database so that you could, put all the tables and everything. So I find that works for me because it's been proved to work in production. So if I added a new column and I need to like do that, I could just migrate only that column, export it, and then import it in the production one. It sort of has been working. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it feels safe because the tool was made for that purpose. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good strategy, I think.
Yeah, maybe it
I
works.
also,
So yeah,
yeah,
go on.
but I think I'm going to add an introspection of the database so it can just
Okay.
generate the schema from the database and
Mm,
also generate a total SQL file for the current schema defined in TypeScript. That's
yeah,
on the
yeah,
work list. So
yeah. That would be beautiful, really. And I think it makes sense, right? Because so two things I've seen. Okay, just this thing you mentioned, and one other thing I saw. I think I've seen it in both Rails and Laravel. Their Active Record and Eloquent, I guess that's what the Laravel one is called, where you could log out the SQL that each query is doing. So maybe if you do user.find and all the filter things, and maybe you add like a flag or like a something in there, like maybe, to SQL or something. It, anytime it runs, it will generate the equivalent SQL that was sent to the underlying database. I think that's really fun, like especially for analysis of like, okay, maybe this query is running slow. I want to see what is really running, not the ORM layer. Do you
yeah,
have that in the works or it
yeah,
already
you
exists
can
in
log
Orange?
everything. You can
Oh, okay.
inspect everything that is sent to the
Mm,
database. So that's quite
beautiful.
easy.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, so I think this is fun. Let's see Orange at work. I have a lot of questions, but it has to happen when you're working on it. Things like association, and how do you drop down to the underlying database if you need to, and why don't you support MongoDB? Is it's because I know MongoDB and Node, they're like pair. Everybody likes MongoDB except me. I'm more
Yeah.
Postgres. So,
Well, it's it's a different beast, I think.
yeah,
So
right.
if I'm going to create something for MongoDB, I would probably make a separate repository for it, so
Hmm.
it won't be a compromise.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like I feel that's one of the reasons why we went with the adapter pattern. Like from the get go, everything is an adapter because it just lets the underlying database driver, you could use their strength. All they have to do is expose the methods, dot find one. That way, there's no really compromise. I think that design sort of like, because I know there's always a compromise when it comes to RMs, but so far I've seen it really play really well because the real waterline doesn't really care where the adapter is coming from and the implementation. You just know that this adapter exposes dot find, and when you call dot find, whatever dot find is in MongoDB, that's what happens. So it's sort of like just I feel it's like a good compromise and design. It makes it easy to just work on everything, or every database and NoSQL and SQL. I like, so maybe that might help. if you want to tackle Mongo? First of all, are your users asking for it? Because definitely not don't build something that you won't use or they are not asking for.
Yes, there was someone asking for it, and
Yeah. Okay.
they like the syntax for the updates.
Yeah, right.
So it's
Is
JSON
that
based, so it looks like MongoDB, but it's not. It's actually converting it to different tables and primary
okay?
keys and so on.
Mm,
So it's an interesting idea, but I'm a bit worried about it will be a bad
right?
compromise,
Mm,
and you wouldn't take advantage of the MongoDB specific features,
yeah,
and I try to make it agnostic as much as possible. So I'm a bit worried
yeah.
about that.
I
So
know, right?
yeah, yeah.
Abstractions. So yeah. So, but do you allow for user land to drop down to the driver itself? Maybe I'm speaking too much in my own understanding, but in Waterline, like, which is one I know, you could drop that. I've never had to do it, but you could drop down to like the underlying driver. Like I saw for SQLite, you're using SQLite 3. Is there a way to, like, instead of using the API exposed by Orange, you could drop down to using the driver itself, so you could write whatever query you want?
Well, you can write raw queries if you
Okay.
want. The only
Okay.
difference is that the parameters uh, will be converted to the correct syntax because there are
Mm-hmm.
different syntaxes for the different
Okay.
databases. That's the only thing
Mm.
that is on top of it. So otherwise, it's just pure raw SQL you can do.
Cool. 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 So
Yeah.
one last question before we go into your demo. How I see you work. It works in the browser. Talk to me about that. It's no
Yeah.
what's happening there.
Yeah. It was an idea that I wanted to try out, but people are worried if it's not safe. So it
Mm-hmm.
was not an option to create the raw queries on the client side. So I had to somehow be able to work as if you were working on the server and convert the filters and everything to some
Mm.
kind of syntax and send it to the server. So what
Right.
I actually did was I was using a JavaScript proxy for most of it. So when you're working and when you're writing the filters and so on, it's not actually executing anything. It just records it, and
Oh,
this
okay.
this tree is then just stringified to JSON and sent to the server, and then the server replays everything, all the actions, and check if
Mm-hmm.
it's allowed to do it, and then just return the results. And actually, I'm using the same protocol even if you're working on the server as if you're on a client. So that
Mm.
makes then you're sure that it doesn't go out of sync, the implementation for the HTTP client and the server version.
That
So
makes sense.
yeah, so there are
Yeah.
some things that is not allowed to do on the client side in HTTP, and that is uh, raw queries and raw filters. You're not allowed to do that.
Of
Otherwise, you
course.
can use everything except transactions, which is not allowed on the client.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So, yeah. Have you seen any rise in the use of SQLite? Because with 37 Signals pushing SQLite and some other players, it's like it's making a comeback. Have you seen any rise with the use of SQLite with Orange?
Uh, I'm not sure if I understood the question. If I've seen
Yeah,
any
like
SQLite.
yeah. So, like, do you know how many of your users are, like, increasingly using SQLite as their database when they're using Orange? Is that even possible
No,
for you to know?
I don't know actually.
Yeah, it's yeah, like thinking about it, I'm like, okay, you can't know that you're not doing telemetry or whatever. But that it's cool because I'm quite interested in, like, seeing people using SQLite in production and see how they fare, because it's always, like, these days is what everybody's talking about. Use SQLite, it works, it's more performance and all that jazz. Okay, so yeah, I think we should do the demo now, right? Let's see how it works. Let's see the full story, how we're going to get started in a project, And I think Orange is framework at Doxys, right? So I could hope to even use it in like Sales, use it in Express, use it in Adonis or any of those frameworks. If okay, I don't know if Adonis lets you pull out the ORM, but that should be the point, right? You could use it with
Yeah.
any framework. Yeah, cool. All right, so yeah,
Yeah,
let's
but the
have you share your screen.
HTTP client, when you're working kind of locally, that's
Mm-hmm.
working through an Express adapter right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but I'm planning on creating an Hono adapter as well. The
Okay.
Hono, you know
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I know it, like the
Mm.
one from
Mm.
Cloudflare. Cool.
Okay. Now
So that,
should I share the screen? I'm not sure
yeah.
how to do it.
Yes, we should have tested this before. I just remember we
Yeah.
didn't test sharing. But I think you should so there would be like a share
Okay, I
thing at the
found it.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works. And you don't need to restart your browser. That would be
No.
fun. You don't need to?
Oh no.
So you
I can share my.
yeah, share entire screen.
Yeah. It's not possible to share the entire screen.
It's not?
The shared button is disabled. Let's see. Okay, but I can share my window.
That's weird.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, so you just have to bump your font size a little bit. So we're all good.
Make it bigger, like this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
Right.
Okay.
I just start out
So
with the tables. So
okay, so the first
can,
thing I'm gonna go into like what do I need to npm install anything like
oh, I
since we're
see.
using
Yeah,
Express, yeah.
yeah.
How do we get started?
What you need to install is the Orange ORM,
Okay.
and then you need to install the driver that will work for the current database. This is all written in the documentation, so it's quite easy to
Okay,
find.
tedious. Don't know that
So
one.
I'm using Tedious now because I'm running an MS SQL database here.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow. It's been a while I've seen anyone using Microsoft SQL. I didn't even know they have like a driver, tedious. That's an interesting
yeah,
name for a driver.
yeah. It's
Very interesting.
yeah, it's a protocol, the TDS protocol, and then it's
Yeah.
written like this for JavaScript. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to do to host it in Express, you need to install these packages as well. Yeah,
Okay,
but for
cool.
just server side, you need only two packages: the Orange ORM and then the current the right driver.
Okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah,
you see, that's interesting. So for things that have, for example, SQLite has SQLite 3, then better SQLite, I guess. Your user needs to always install the SQLite
yeah,
3 one. Okay,
yes.
that's
You
okay,
can.
cool.
Okay, I don't have the README here, but
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
it's all documented in the yeah
Mm-hmm.
in the README.
Okay.
So
All right,
I
let's
will
go.
not know the reason. The reason I'm using MS SQL is probably because I had a demo at my employer, so I just took the same demo. Yeah. Usually
Okay,
I
okay.
do Postgres for open source, but
It's fine. Let's
yeah,
have a change. Variety is the
yeah,
spice of life. I like it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I will just create the database on the fly here. So I'll
Okay.
just run initial script to create these tables. It's just
Mm,
a customer table. So we're using the identity column here. That means auto incremental integer for all the primary keys. And then we have the
okay.
order table with ID, and yeah, it's pretty simple, date and a customer ID. And then there's a one-to-many relation to the order line with a reference back to the order and product and an amount. And then we have a delivery address here And this one has a reference back to the order table.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what's that underscore order? Is it?
Just because it's a reserved word in MS SQL, but it will work this as
Okay.
well because I have escaped all the table names and column names.
Okay, yeah.
So, but
Now, okay.
previously it wasn't escape, but now it would work. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
that's why.
That's fair.
And then we would start mapping out the tables in Orange. So it just import Orange, and
Okay, so it's
we call a map
validation.
function here,
Okay.
and then we say we're defining a table. It's called, this is the physical name in the database, and this is the name which we will use in TypeScript.
Mm.
So then we just define all the columns with the correct type. So I'm not referring to the database specific types here. I'm using a
Okay,
more
yeah.
agnostic pattern, so referring to the JavaScript TypeScript type.
Okay. That's your validation API.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we do that for all the tables first, and then we can actually call the map method again to set up the relations. So I can demonstrate that. Let's say we want to map the customer here. We could call it anything, but okay, I will call it customer. And then we can use the
Okay, cool.
references, and then just pass in the previously defined table, which is customer.
Okay.
And then we have to say on which column we are joining on. And then it will suggest columns in the order table which matches the primary column of the target table, the customer. So now I have two suggestions here, and I will choose the right one, which is customer ID. And then we have the lines. That's another kind of relation. It's like the opposite way. It's a has many relation. This means that the order line itself has the column that it should be joined on to the primary key of order. So
Yeah.
it's the opposite way. So we can map it out like this. To change language like this, okay. I'm running inside Docker now, it's a bit slow.
Wow, okay, that's fine.
I'm using this remote extension in VS Code. Okay. And then it will suggest the correct type of columns. So it's order ID. Okay. And the delivery address is a special kind of relation. It's not a join, but it's a special kind of has many relation, but it has only one occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this means that the delivery address and the lines, they're kind of owned by the order table. I cannot exist on their own, but the customer, it can exist on its own. So that's why it's just a join, a reference. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
And then we can go to the actual implementation of fetching the data. First, I can go to the connection string. What I do here is just import a map, and then I just pass in the connection string, and you can fetch this from environment variables or anything. I wanted to separate the map and the actual DB because we're going to demonstrate how to use it from the client afterwards, and then we need
Cool.
only the map and not the connection string.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, now let's try to fetch some rows here. What I do first is just initiate the database, create the tables, and I am importing the database that I just defined with the mappings. And then I will insert some customers. So you don't need to actually do any code generation here. Everything will be just inferred by the mapping that we created earlier on. So compared to Prisma, you have to do this generate thing to generate the types, but you don't need that
Yeah,
here.
true.
Yeah. So when inserting, you will of course get full IntelliSense.
Okay.
It's a bit slow, but yeah. The ID and the name, that's the only two columns there. And as you can see, I'm not passing in any primary keys here. We defined an auto-incremental key, but you can of course pass in a key if you want to, if you're not using an auto-incremental. And actually anything that is server generated here, you could have other columns that have default values from the database. You just omit them and they will be returned when creating the row. Okay.
Yeah.
And now we have inserted 3 customers there, and then we are inserting the orders. And when we call db order insert, and we can just pass in the previously defined customer. You can either do it like this, or you can say that, okay, I want to use the customer ID column instead. But you can't do both. You have to decide if you want to use this syntax or the other one. So I could do it like this if I wanted to, instead of this. So it would be the same result.
Okay.
And then I have the delivery address. I can just send it in a nested JSON structure here. It has other columns, but I'm just, for demo, I will just pass in one of them. So I'm not passing in the order ID. It will be automatically inferred because it's on a hierarchical structure here.
Yeah.
And then I create the lines. Yeah. And then I create the next order and the third order here. Okay. Should we run it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. There's one thing at the end there because I'm passing a fetching strategy here. This says after you have done inserting the orders, I want the orders back with the customer fetched and the delivery address and the lines. So this is the, yeah.
Cool.
You
I like it.
Okay. Okay. Now I just print the results of the pre-orders here. And we can also, if you want to inspect the raw queries, we can just pass in console there to the query event. Okay.
That's a lot of SQL.
Yeah. In the first part, we have the inserts for the customers. And then we have, let me see, the orders here. We have a transaction starting here, and then we insert the order, delivery address, order line, and the order itself. And I'm not actually batching anything here. You could you say that, okay, why don't you batch all the inserts into one? But actually, when you're doing a transaction, it's not any faster. It performs just the same.
Nice. And
then this is the last query here. As you can see here, it's using the for JSON path for the MS SQL, and this will return everything in one single query.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
cool.
Yeah. That's it.
That's amazing.
Okay. You can do changes as well if it follows the active record pattern. So let's say we want to change one of these orders. I'll just skip the console log of this, and then I will fetch one of the orders. So what I'm doing here is fetching the order with the customer name Hermione, and you can pass in the filter.
Yeah, what's that undefined for? The undefined?
Yeah, because you can actually construct the filters outside. This is a quite new syntax. I have the filter inside the last. This is actually the fetching strategy. Here I can say that I want to fetch the lines, but I can also pass in the filter in the where.
Okay, so the first argument could be the line, the filter.
Yeah, you can create the filter like this if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, they passed that, alright.
So you could. This is just the same.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And now I am passing the fetching strategy. I will only fetch the lines.
And we still have the where console commented out, yeah?
Yeah, there. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And then on the lines, I will just push a new line, product, and with an amount. And I set the order date, and I just call save changes. So this will save the entire structure and put it in the correct tables and afterwards.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Should we try it?
Yeah, let's see. Test the code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have our changes made. What do I do? 3. Cool.
Yeah, the broomstick.
Yeah, the broomstick.
So it's quite easy to do updates here, and you can also fetch many and do multiple updates at the same time.
Okay. Awesome. I like it. So yeah, let's look a little bit at raw SQL, because I know the ORM folks be like, okay, how do you do raw SQL? So yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I'm not prepared for it, but I can always do something. Okay, let's try.
Yeah, I am looking at the docs too, so it's yeah.
Maybe I can try to are two ways you can do raw SQL. You can either just create a select statement or something, or update, or you can create a raw SQL filter.
Okay.
So if you want to create a raw SQL filter, we could, I can try to make a demo.
Yeah.
Name. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
What you can do is just write it like this.
Okay.
And you can have, if you have any parameters, you can just write it like this and pass in something like this.
Okay. Oh,
and then you can actually mix it with existing filters as well. So I can just do it like this. Pass in the raw filter here.
Neat.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is correct syntax, but that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is. I'm looking at you don't need to do some parameters there. Okay, yeah, you did with a new date. Perfect. Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah. And if you want to do pure raw selects or inserts, you can do like and this will have the same syntax as the filter.
Okay.
With SQL and the parameters. So you write whatever you want here.
Nice. Oh.
And this could be a function as well. Doesn't have to be a constant.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you for showing that, even if it was on the spot.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. You do mention you have like the browser thing to show off. We have like 8 minutes into it. So
Okay.
let's see. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
Show me
I'll be quick.
some nice stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now to do it from the browser, we need to host it in Express. So we just start a regular Express server. And usually you would protect it with a token, but for demo purposes, I will not. I'll just skip that for now. And you define a route here, and then you say what tables you want to expose to the client.
Okay.
So right now I'm going to expose the order table. Okay.
Okay.
And I can just comment after token validation for now. And you can also set up a base filter, so you can restrict what kind of rows you will return to the client.
Okay.
Typically, you would restrict it on customer ID or something that you fetch from the token or something.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, but I will just skip that for now. Just start up the server. It's a bit slow because I'm running in Docker Desktop. Okay.
What is a browser?
And then I'm not running from that browser, but I'm running from via HTTP, so it will be the same as as a browser.
Okay.
So this is the browser client. And what I do here is just import a map as usual, but instead of passing in the connection string, I'm passing in the URL to the endpoint. So, and then you will get the same syntax as if you were on the server.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could have like an endpoint that just opens up access to like some tables.
Yes.
And then you could just query it from the client. That's fun.
Let's try it. I hope it works. Yeah.
Yay. Amazing. Cool stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's definitely awesome stuff. It's feeling like, I don't know, a little bit of GraphQL in there.
There are no GraphQL there, but it's kind of similar. But I still think this is more powerful because you get all the expressive syntax with the filters and so on. So I think it's better than GraphQL.
Oh, okay. I like it. Yeah, this is fun.
And you can also do some complex filtering here, like lines, and you can have all, which means that all lines must satisfy this constraint, like product containing something. Yeah.
Okay.
The reason it's slow, it's because it's Docker.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, should we try this? Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Now all the lines must contain magic. And you can also go deeper here if you want to. But I don't have anything below the lines. But if you had like packages below the lines, you can do that as well. And you can negate the filters like this, writing not. And you will get the order. Yeah.
I like it. Awesome stuff.
And you also have aggregate methods. So if I go back to the server side now, you could calculate the total amount from the lines and have a separate property on the root of order here. And you can also elevate columns that are deeper down in the structure to the top if you want to.
Yeah.
So that's nice too. And you can also do aggregates like regular group by stuff. So this will run a group by customer name and postal place and give all the totals and average for those.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's fun. So I think this has been an amazing demo. I think I like the syntax and, especially the whole client one. That was like the highlight for me. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think you could stop sharing your screen while we wrap up. This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Lars. So, any other thing you want to talk about Orange before we wrap up? Is there anything you wish you would have, any question I would have asked that you have answers to already?
I really don't know.
Okay, then I guess we actually covered what's top of your mind. So, how does one reach out to you? Is there like an Orange Discord, or like, if I want to learn more about the ORM, I want to use it for my project, where's the best place to go?
Yes, there is a Discord. You can find
Okay.
the link in the README of the repository.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I would link to the website and the repo as well. So any other word on, building apps in JavaScript, ORMs and whatnot? Any last minute piece of wisdom for us devs before we wrap up?
Well, every time I create a new TypeScript project, there's a new setup, so I get quite frustrated. So I have to do
Right?
the Google and the 2024 setup.
Mm,
So the ORM is actually written in pure JavaScript, and
okay.
if it was written in TypeScript, it would be. I don't think it would work out actually.
Oh my God.
So I've only created the types using the generic type mapping, which is quite powerful. So that's just an index DTS file. It's a TypeScript definition file. So that's the only TypeScript that exists in the repo. So
I think I should check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so any other thing you want to plug since you're a guest? Anything you could plug away? Is there anything you're working on? What we should look out for Orange or any of your projects?
Well, I'm trying to optimize the performance even more for Postgres. So I'll be working on that for the next couple of weeks, see if it's possible.
Okay.
And I will focus on supporting different cloud storage databases like
Okay.
Terso and Neon and the other one. I don't recall all the names.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
quite a few these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Lars. This was amazing. Learned a lot about Orange, and yes, and how not to use the try cache to rack up my my cloud
Well, it
cards.
wasn't me, but I was responsible for the
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, definitely. Like I could learn from that. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for coming to TKYT number 62.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.